Hello, welcome to Sideways. I've come out this morning and forgotten to bring the few notes I made about the things we talked about this week. But that has offered me an opportunity to be quiet for a few seconds and let you listen to the beautiful sounds of spring. Reframing negative thoughts. Hello.
Good afternoon to you.
Cool, that's super loud.
Is it? Am I too close to the mic or something then? Or
can you turn your volume down a little bit?
how's that?
That's much better.
Is that better?
Right, let's start again.
That's the normal volume I use beforehand.
Maybe you were just booming.
Perhaps I was. Is it okay now though? It's not going to come out all quiet.
Well, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
All right, let's start again then.
There's no point in starting again, is there? Now I'll use that shoddy start.
Oh, good afternoon then.
Yeah, good afternoon. I was just looking at a fly who had decided to fly into the room just as we were beginning.
Just as you started, put you off a bit, did it?
Well, they're cocks, aren't they, flies?
They're what?
Cocks.
They are a bit, yeah. Yeah, they're a nuisance, mate, aren't they?
They're a nuisance. I wish I didn't find them a nuisance. Sometimes when they're buzzing around and I can feel my irritation growing, I wish I could be a little bit more sort of karmic. I suppose I wish, in a sense, I could reframe my thoughts about them.
Well, that's quite a clumpy sort of segue, but it's not bad, I suppose, for you.
I don't think it was that clumpy because it literally came into my mind as I was talking about it.
Well, I've seen you react to flies, and you seem to completely overreact to them in a quite a violent manner.
Well, I'm very sensitive to certain sounds. I think, have we talked about this?
We haven't, no, but it's probably part of a certain condition, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know how the washing machine beeps when it finishes its cycle?
Yes.
I cannot tolerate that.
Really?
So I have to, if I'm going to put the washing machine on, I have to make sure I'm not going to be in the middle of a session or something when it finishes its cycle, because if I can hear it in the background, that's it. Everything's lost. The red mist comes down. I want to start smashing everything up.
Well, just don't do any washing. There, problem solved.
Well, that would be an approach I could use, but probably better just to try and time it in such a manner that I can turn it off when it starts. Yeah,
that'd be that probably be a little bit more sensible.
I think so. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, reframing negative thoughts, which you've very kindly have mentioned already. This was a relatively recent idea that you came up with, but it's one that I realised once I thought about it, it's often talked about in recovery meetings.
Must be.
It is. Well, I know when we're in the throes of active addiction, obviously we're bang full of negative thoughts with no way to deal with them apart from drinking more and taking more drugs. Yeah. So, when we go into recovery, if we're not careful, we can take that thought process with us, which will obviously hinder a successful recovery. So it is an important topic. The more I thought about it, I came to the conclusion that it was quite an important aspect that needed discussing.
I'm glad we're of one mind on this issue. I suppose, in a sense, recovery in itself is a reframe, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is, and we'll sort of come on to that, but it is, yes.
Okay, good.
But before we start...
Yeah.
A couple of little animal stories.
Oh.
Quite gentle ones, really. The first one was a dog called Bobby in Portugal. Yeah. He's just currently gone into the Guinness Book of Records as the oldest dog in history at 31 years old. Did you see that?
I think I saw this. On the news, or in the news somewhere. 31. Yeah, that's quite 31. That's impressive, isn't it?
So it was the oldest recorded dog in history, but also the oldest living one, because obviously he's still around at the moment. So each day he's beating his own record, which is nice.
I wonder how he's managed to achieve that sort of longevity. I bet he won't be pedigree, will he? That's for sure.
He's a Portuguese farm dog. So
because pedigree dogs don't live as long as mongrels.
No, he's probably got a good life, I'd imagine, in the outdoors eating. I think he eats quite healthily, so yeah.
Yeah, he probably gets a lot of olive oil.
All that.
And fresh vegetables.
He has a Mediterranean diet, doesn't he?
He does. He has a doggy Mediterranean diet. So, I mean, I thought my old dog Toby was old at 17 when he was eventually put down, but the old Bobby puts him into a cocked hat.
31, yeah. Right, but the second story was about a chicken in Suffolk who was given an ASBO. For those listeners outside of the UK, that stands for an antisocial behaviour order. So often applied to humans. I've never known them to be applied, but this Rory the chicken, it's a cockerel.
Yeah, well, he would be, wouldn't he?
He would be, yeah. He upset his neighbours with his dawn chorus.
I thought perhaps you were going to tell me he was sitting in the local village square drinking cider.
He would have had some sort of excuse for his behaviour then, but
I suppose he would, yeah. Skinning up on a Bloodwind Pig album or something.
Well, I think, it was the neighbours that complained.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, and the owner was given a notice to try and keep it quiet. But I think perhaps the neighbours, they need to reframe their thoughts a little bit on it, don't you?
Absolutely do. I mean, they're living in the country, aren't they?
Well, exactly that.
That's a country. I think the reframe for that would be, aren't we fortunate to live out in the country surrounded by beautiful farmyard noises? And what's his name again?
Rory.
If Rory the cockerel wakes you up at 5 a.m, get up and get on with your day.
Exactly. Yeah, or reframe it thinking it's Rory Gallagher waking you up at that time of the day and you'd be happier. Yeah,
but that'd be odd, wouldn't it? Because you'd essentially be being haunted, wouldn't you?
You would. Or it could just be a CD comes or a record or a song on the radio.
I think I'd rather be woken up by Rory the cockerel than Rory Gallagher.
What?
Yeah, I would.
Sinful behaviour.
Yeah, because a cockerel in the morning, that's a sound that you would associate with the morning, whereas some rocky blues numbers, I don't really associate that with waking up.
Well, you need to broaden your horizons a little bit then in that case.
Yeah, maybe.
Shadow play coming on first thing, put you in a good mood.
Talking of music, did you watch Eurovision last night?
I didn't, no.
Oh,
it's too popular. I'm surprised you did.
That's very good. That's a good retort.
So, no, I didn't watch Eurovision, but I know that I think we came second to last, didn't we? The UK?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Which is back to where we normally end up after being quite successful last year.
It always feels fitting that Sweden should win it.
It does really. Yeah,
the only song I can really vividly remember seeing from my childhood on Eurovision was Waterloo in 1973.
Launched their career.
It did launch their career.
Sweden and Ireland tend to have always done quite well.
Well, Ireland haven't qualified for about 5 years, have they?
No, I know. They used to win it regularly.
Yeah, they're like the Eurovision equivalent of, I don't know, Notts County or
Notts County.
Perhaps not Notts County. Huddersfield Town. How about that?
They used to win a lot of titles in the 30s, didn't they? Yeah.
Exactly. So okay, Notts County was a mistake.
Yeah,
but Huddersfield Town, I think, is a reasonable.
Yeah, that's a good analogy,
isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I can run with that.
All right.
But going back to the subject matter, then, do you think? I mean, all of us have had negative thoughts, haven't we? At some times, and it's the ramification of those unhelpful thoughts when they affect the way we feel and behave. But I went onto the NHS website, which was quite useful.
Yeah.
And I've taken some points from that.
Okay.
And I want to discuss this various bits. I'm sure you're going to be able to add plenty of meat to the bones on this. But the opening quote I wanted to use there, which is off of their website, was challenging and learning to replace these thoughts, i.e. negative thoughts, is one of the best ways to help us deal with stress and anxiety, improve how we sleep, and really boost our mood. In time, this can really make a difference to our mental health and well-being. Now, if reframing negative thoughts gives all those benefits, it is something we all need to pay attention to, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. If you think about the impact of negative thinking, it does push you down into a fog, doesn't it? It does. Yeah. That is the sort of behaviour that makes you feel anxious or stressed or frustrated or angry. A lot of those emotions that we find uncomfortable. And of course, sometimes you're experiencing those emotions that are uncomfortable and there's nothing you can do to kind of get rid of them.
No.
But if they are there because you are thinking negatively about something that you could reframe, then it's kind of an easy win, isn't it? It
is really. And we'll come on to some examples of that. But they on the NHS website, it come up with steps and strategies to help you reframe unhelpful thoughts.
Lovely.
So just a few points I wanted to go through with you. The first one was know what to look for. It's often that we're not even aware that we're thinking in an unhelpful way, because sometimes I think we all know people that seem to be constantly having negative thoughts about everything.
Yeah.
And I think that it's become normalized for them, isn't it? And I think, if we're not careful, it can become normalized in their own thinking process. And common examples of this are, the first one was always expecting the worst outcome from any situation.
Yeah.
I think perhaps I remember that during active addiction, certainly. And again, I think we all know people that will constantly talk in that manner. Second point was ignoring the good sides of a situation and only focusing on the bad.
Hang on, before we go on to the second one.
Oh, okay.
The thing that's
wanted to come back on that. Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to say about that first point was sometimes you need someone to point it out to you.
Yes.
So as much as it's important for you to be able to recognize that in yourself, if you know someone who does have a tendency to look on the negative side, then be a good friend or partner or relative and point it out to them, gently, not oh, for God's sake, you're always bloody moaning about stuff. That's not very helpful. But it is worth saying to someone, I've noticed that you've got a tendency to imagine that the worst is going to happen all the time. And I think we've spoken about this before, but if you always imagine the worst, people will defend that position. They'll say, I imagine the worst because then if it doesn't happen, then it feels like a win. Well, it isn't a win because you're going to suffer whatever, aren't you? Yeah. You're going to suffer imagining the worst. And then if it doesn't happen, you didn't need to suffer. And if it does happen, you're going to suffer all over again. So
I agree. But it seems to be quite common amongst, I remember doing some work for this guy, and all he did was, it was negative about everything, about the weather outside, it was about what we were doing inside, what we were doing outside. He had a phrase, it was everything he used to, he'd come out of the sentence, at the end of it, he would say, that's a pain in the bleeding arse. And that was used time and time again. It was, and when we called him that in the end, behind his back, obviously, we wouldn't turn to his face, but that became...
Imagine feeling like that, though, all day, every day.
I know, awfully negative, isn't it?
But I feel sorry for people who feel like that. People who go through every day imagining the worst going to happen and seeing the worst in everything. God, apart from it being exhausting to be around people like that, it must be awful to live your life like that.
It must be, mustn't it? But again, perhaps your point about actually pointing it out to them, sure they must know in that, or he must have known. But
I don't think people do know. I think it just because I think you kind of develop that jaundiced view of the world.
Yeah.
You think that one of the things we sometimes do in therapy is we do a kind of audit of the beliefs that people hold about themselves and the world. So I might say to someone, before we meet again, write a list of all the beliefs you have about yourself and all the beliefs you have about the world. They can be positive or negative or whatever. And you get a sense then of the way that people's brains work. If people always believe that things are going to go badly and the world's against them, I think a lot of people are unconscious of that. And it does need pointing out. And they sometimes then will need help to reframe their thoughts in such a way that it's not quite as devastating.
Well, that's right. And leading on to that second point I went on to about ignoring the good sides of a situation, only focusing on the bad, which, I do that all the time with the football, that's for sure. It's very easy to fall into that category.
Yeah.
And we see it, again, a lot in people that are sort of, going into recovery or considering their relationship with alcohol. And again, we'll only consider what they got from drink rather than what it's doing to them.
Yeah. Okay. So there's another thing that's important to recognise in those situations, and that is that whatever the negative thought is that you're having, it does have a positive intent. Yes. So take your negative thinking about football. This is the second time we've talked about football today.
Yeah.
If you think negatively about it, if you can find the positive intent, it becomes easier to reframe it. So the positive intent of feeling negative about football is, well, I don't want to feel disappointed. I don't want to feel hurt. And if you really understand what it is you're trying to avoid, it becomes much easier to reframe it and to take a different course of action that will help in that aim in some way.
Oh, I agree.
Stop watching football, for example.
Stop it altogether.
Yeah. Or try and find a way of kind of balancing out the disappointment with something else that is enjoyable. They're there are all sorts of things you can do, but it becomes very hard to do it unless you really understand what the purpose of that negative thought was in the first place.
I think perhaps with football, you just need to reframe it and put it in a different position in your life, don't you?
Exactly.
Like you have recently. You've taken a bit of a back step from it, haven't you?
That's exactly it. You know, it's like, if this thing is disappointing me and irritating me, then why don't I build up the things that don't feel like that?
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't take on such significance. When people do it with drinking, then give me an example of the way that people might think negatively about their relationship with drink that needs a reframe.
Well, I think it's more about looking back or trying to let go of alcohol. And they say, well, I need it for confidence. I need it for, for various bits when I go out. It's always been a bit of a social crutch. So, and not looking at at what's actually happening to why they're doing it or what the consequences are. So they concentrate on that.
So reframe there might be something like, well, imagine what it would feel like if you could go out without drink for an evening and feel confident enough to talk to people, and you come home again and you think, actually, that was all right.
Yeah.
So there's always, I was thinking about this earlier because I knew you wanted to talk about this, and I was thinking, I don't think there's any negative situation that you couldn't reframe. I know it's a lofty
bereavement perhaps.
Well, funny enough, that was the very thing that I thought about. And the reframe that I thought for bereavement was, if you really miss someone terribly when they've died, then you must have had the joy of a beautiful relationship with them.
Yes.
You're never going to reframe the pain that you feel at loss.
No.
But what you can do is you can reframe it to such an extent that you remind yourself that the reason you're hurting so much is because you had something beautiful in your life.
Yeah, it is. And I think that I remember reading a quote, I hope I'm getting this right. I think it was Jamie Anderson, the author, was talking about grief. And he expressed it as that grief is just like love. It's exactly like love, but without a destination. And I thought, I like that. It'd be quite nice to use that in the next eulogy I have to do, which undoubtedly there'll be times.
Probably, yeah.
But I thought that was a reframing of that particular set of circumstances.
Yeah.
There's another point that came up, which was seeing things as either only good or only bad with nothing in between seems to be a problem. There's no grey areas. Do you see that? Do you get the point they're trying to make there? So that's a common example.
Yeah, absolutely. I think binary thinking is a problem that people really have. Actually, a lot of people find it very difficult to operate in the grey area. Yeah, and that's often why they're feeling miserable or sad or frustrated or anxious, because they do sort of veer to one end of the spectrum or the other. Things are either great or they're terrible. Yeah, people sometimes are fearful of operating in the grey because it feels as if there's a lot of uncertainty. We've spoken a lot about how if you're in a lot of pain, at least you know the pain is familiar to you. So there is certainty. So if you're an active addict, at least you've got certainty in your life because you know what every day is going to be like. Yeah. And sometimes that can feel more appealing than the uncertainty of the kind of grey area that you're going to have to be in while you go into recovery. I was going to say, while you were talking about it, I was thinking about exactly that. It seems to be in recovery, we try to move towards the grey because that, we need to get an area where when things aren't too high, aren't too low. We like to have a middle ground to operate in. So it does fit in quite nicely. Exactly. It's the, do you remember that sort of the lines between which we live our lives, the line of happiness and the line of sadness? Do you remember you doing a diagram at one time, I'm sure. Yeah, which don't work on a podcast. But essentially, if you think about how we all live our lives between a line of sadness and a line of happiness, and the best we can hope for is a wavy line. Sometimes we're going to feel better than others. What addiction does to you is it pushes you right up high and then down to crushing lows. So that is essentially what you're talking about, is binary thinking. Yeah. If I'm not really high, I'm going to be terribly low. And actually what recovery is teaching you is no, you need to be somewhere in the middle where it feels like you can cope with the lows and the highs with, in a kind of similar manner. You're right. Drink and certainly drugs will take you on that roller coaster. Yeah. That you can have an extremely high feeling, and then the lows are crushing. They really are the crushing lows when you come down. The last point on this was
considering yourself the sole cause of negative situations. So this is an unhelpful thought. Another example of an unhelpful thought, which I suspect we've all been in those situations, haven't we?
Yeah. So this is that was bound to go wrong because I'm involved. I'm so useless. That sort of thing.
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I'm absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Well, I'm sure we have all been in situations like that. I think it becomes more difficult if you apply that sort of thinking to everything in your life. You know, I might think about that when I've mucked up the latest DIY project.
Yeah.
I might think, oh, well, it's typical. Obviously, I've mucked that up because it's me and I'm bloody useless. So, you know, you can kind of tolerate that if it's in little pockets of your life. But if you do it constantly, then obviously that's very wearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't, yeah.
And I expect a lot of active addicts feel like that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. It's a very isolating condition, and alone with your own negative thoughts the whole time.
So what's the reframe there then?
About what?
Well, if you're in that sort of situation where you just think about yourself negatively and you always think that you're useless and you're the root of everything that goes wrong, how do you reframe that?
I was just thinking, the example I was thinking about, behind, if you miss a penalty, and going back to a football game, missing a penalty and you lose 2-1, which happened to me on one occasion. And I thought, you know, I've let everyone down. Everything about this game has been ruined by me. But I suppose you'd reframe it and say, well, you had a decent game up to then. You got the other goal, which had happened, and you know, it was in the right place at the right time to get the penalty. Do
you think that worked for you at the time?
No.
I see. I think the reframe, and probably a more realistic, achievable reframe, is that when you feel like you're on the bottom, like you did when you took a penalty and you missed it, you've only got one way to go now.
Yeah.
So like, there's all to play for. Obviously, there wasn't all to play for in that game. But if you really think you're unremittingly bad or you're terrible, you've let everybody else down, you then face a choice. You can either accept that and say, yeah, I am the scum of the earth and there's absolutely, you know, no point to me. Or you can accept the challenge of doing the work to investigate those feelings, to sort of think. So I might say to you as a therapist, I might say, well, so does that mean there's no redeeming feature about you? You know, if I asked you to think of something positive, what would you tell me? You know, and I could ask you that question in the context of a game of football, or I could ask you that question in the context of your life. And I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but I'm yet to meet anyone who can't think of a single redeeming feature about themselves. And when you've got that, you've got a seed. You know, there's something then to build on. So in a sense, that also is a reframe.
It is.
I'm mostly bad, but I'm not entirely bad. It's a big reframe from I'm a pile of shit.
I'm terrible all the time, yeah.
Exactly.
It's moving towards that grey area again, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So again, we're going to the next point really about the steps and strategies to help you reframe unhelpful thoughts. The second point was about checking your unhelpful thoughts. So how likely is the outcome you're worried about, for example? Or is there good evidence for this outcome which you're fearing?
Yeah.
And going on from that, are there other explanations or other possible outcomes? So instead of just being very polarized in your view, we'll come on to the retraining bit, but think a little bit outside of the box on that, or look at other alternatives.
Yeah, I think this is where people do fall foul of their own thinking, because what usually happens is you're thinking negatively about something and you try and overpower your negative thinking with logic.
Okay.
It doesn't really work. What you have to do is you have to listen to your negative thinking first.
Yeah.
You have to say, well, what is it that how bad do I think this really is? And until you've got to the root of that, it becomes very difficult to then do what you've just been talking about, which is, well, what evidence have I got for that?
Yeah.
Is that really the most likely thing that's going to happen? And if it isn't, what is the most likely thing that's going to happen? Because, more often than not, you'll find that that's not as bad as your negative thinking is telling you.
I agree. And there's a good point which I came across, which again, we often talk about in groups, is what would you say to a friend if they were thinking this way?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we can be really hard on ourselves. And this happens all the time in groups, where if someone falls off the wagon, and everyone sort of rallies around them and say, come on, we can get you back on side, and we do this and we do that, which is fine. But in your own mind, if you're that person that's slipped up, you feel like you're the worst person in the world, and and you will beat yourself up. Very different to the way you treat another person if they slipped up.
Yeah. So if you've lapsed, right?
Yeah.
And you come back to group and you tell your fellow recovering peers that you've lapsed.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're, nothing. What's the reframe?
You could think of it as part of the condition, and therefore you'll almost definitely be going through that. I don't particularly like that one, but it is a way of reframing that. It's a hiccup. It's a slip. It's one of those things we can crack on. There's no great damage done. But we can learn from that. And it's a learning exercise rather than don't see it as a failure. Just see it as part of the learning exercise and moving forward.
There you go. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's it. And of course, the other reframe is, well, you've come back to group.
Exactly. So it's strange how people will try and hide it from you initially and won't admit it. And then when they do, they find it really cathartic because everyone will rally around at that point.
Yeah, because you've lapsed, and then you've also shown the character and the strength to come back and talk about it and face it.
Yeah, which that's exactly right. And we're always quite joyful to see people come back in, especially if you heard on the grapevine that they've picked up and you can't find them, we haven't seen them.
Yeah,
seeing people come back in and then start their. I was going to use the word journey there, but obviously I know you would.
Yeah. You can use the word journey. I'll reframe it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they can get back on the path towards sobriety. So yeah, that's fine. And the third point was to change the thoughts. See if you can change the thought for a neutral, which again is that grey area, or a more positive one. Mm-hmm. For example, and there's an example they gave on this website was a simple shift in looking at something that you think this is too daunting. And I know we've talked about this before. I changed that to, I'm going to break it down and take the first step. So chunking down in that respect. So chunking down, which we've talked about a lot in the past, leads nicely into this in the way we start to reframe our thoughts.
Yeah, and that example is also, there's an opportunity for a reframe there, which is, what does it say about me that I'm considering doing this? I must believe in myself. I've got some ambition. I want to do something that I'm going to feel proud of. That says a lot about you.
Yes.
If you're in a situation where you're facing something that you're finding challenging, you can just reframe that. If you're fearful of it, just the fact you're thinking about it is a big positive reframe.
Just on its own.
Yeah.
It's the first step, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Because if I wasn't worth doing this, I wouldn't even be considering it.
No, that's true. That is true. And the last point really was, don't worry if you can't change a thought. Because I think we can get wrapped up in that as well. You might be listening to this and thinking, "Oh God, I'm guilty of a lot of these things. There's a lot of negative thinking. I want to try and change it, but it won't." You probably find it's not going to happen overnight. Well, it's going to be something you've got to work on a little bit. But I think there's no right or wrong answers here. I think reframing your thoughts is about learning to think more flexibly, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, not being able to change your thoughts is also a reframe.
Is it right? Yes, it would be.
Because it's acceptance.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I've got this negative thought and I've been trying to think of a reframe. I can't. So I'm just going to leave it and I'm not going to worry about it anymore. That is a reframe.
Yeah. Some of you are pointing out a lot of good stuff here. I mean, again, but I think if you could learn to identify and separate those unhelpful thoughts from the helpful ones, because you're not going to be negative all the time. There's going to be some good ones in there as well, aren't there? So separating them up, like we talked about identifying them. But that's what I mean. Reframing stuff is like, it's like a muscle. The more you try and reframe stuff, the easier it becomes. Yeah.
It won't stop you ever feeling unhappy, of course. But what we're really talking about here are things that anchor you to the bottom.
Yeah.
So that it pulls you down. It's like, I can't get out of this. And the only thing you can do, the only person who's going to get you out of a situation like that is you. And the way you get yourself out of it is reframing the way you're seeing it.
That's good. And I've got a couple of quotes here which really start to wrap up what I'm talking about. The first one was, and this is unattributed, I couldn't find where it came from, but you may not be able to completely stop negative thoughts, but knowing that you don't have to give them power is so important. Which is once we weaponize those negative thoughts, they get out of hand, don't they?
Yeah.
And the second one, which is a great example of reframing a situation as well as the thought process, is a quote from Nelson Mandela.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
You've heard of it? Yeah, he's a good lad, wasn't he? And he said, as I walked out of the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew that if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind me, I'd still be in prison. So, which I thought was lovely. I think it's quite powerful. I mean, it sort of illustrates being held hostage by our own negative thoughts, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a physical and an emotional freedom he was experiencing there by reframing the way. It must have been really difficult to do that, mustn't it? After all those years of hurt and the feeling of injustice, to suddenly be free and not carry that baggage forward with you.
But it's also something that you have to do in recovery, isn't it?
It is,
You have to leave the harmful emotions that you have about the past, and your misdemeanors and the way that you've behaved, and shame and guilt and all that sort of stuff. It's a reframe. It's like, the reframe is I've left it in the past. I didn't have to. I could still be there. Could still be carrying it, but I've chosen not to. That is a really powerful reframe for recovery.
Yeah, again, that's wrapping it with positivity, isn't it? Rather than
wrapping, like
You're trying to think of a rapper now, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think we both struggle there, really.
Snoop Dogg, is he a rapper?
Probably a long time ago, but yeah. We're not up to speed with rappers, are we, really?
No.
Never been big in my musical genre taste, I must admit.
No.
But that's about it, really. That sort of was looking at, I think we looked at that grey area I wanted to look at because I think that's an important aspect of it all.
You like grey areas, don't you? Last week you were banging on about the neutral zone. This
I do.
Going on about the grey area.
I think there's a lot can go on in the grey areas.
We're talking about the grey pound next week.
I'm part of that, spending the grey pound.
Can you lend us a grey pound?
So, is there anything else you wanted to add on that? Because I know that this is quite up your street, really, isn't it? In therapy,
no, I think I've probably said enough.
Okay, I know. Well, I looked on YouTube, which is quite unusual for me to look on YouTube. I get most of my stuff off of Google and various other areas you can look at on the internet. But looking on YouTube, there's quite a number of quite useful videos about exactly this reframing.
Don't get confused with picture reframing, because that won't help you with this sort of stuff.
No, if you Google reframing, you do get the local galleries come up that can do it for you if you've broken the frame on any of your artwork hanging on the wall. Which if Liz is listening to this, I bought her a very nice Jason Clark.
Nice.
And she broke the frame on that.
Oh, what, deliberately?
Oh, well, she said it suddenly fell off the wall. I think it's just that Liz didn't like
story.
it. Yeah, that's what I thought. So if Jason's listening as well, which I know he does from time to time, have a word with her.
Well, I have to say, I've got a Jason Clark on my wall and the frame is still intact. I think it's about the way you're treating it, really, isn't it?
I'll nick that next time I'm around then to save Lizzie the job.
That's the reframe.
That's the reframe.
Put it in the wall a bit more firmly.
Yeah, apparently it came down in the night. You know what I mean?
Of course it did, yeah.
Anyway,
right.
we can go on to our gratitude lists if you like.
Good, because I got a chicken in the oven.
Have you? Okay. Well, it's not Rory, is it?
No. I think a cockerel would be quite tough.
It would be.
I think you need to put that in some sort of a casserole.
Would you?
I think so.
Yeah.
So who's go first, is it?
I don't know. I can go first if you like.
All right.
I was just going to say nurses. All right. That's quite a broad statement, really.
Yeah,
but,
that's good.
Well, I'm just, as you know, I have to go to the hospital to have an eye injection from time to time, which I had to this morning.
Yeah.
And they're always, consider this is a Sunday morning, they're working. They're always very chipper, very helpful, very kind, and always treat me with real dignity. So I'm pleased about that.
I completely agree. Whenever I've had my own what's the word I'm looking for? Experiences with nurses at the hospital and so on, I'm always full of gratitude actually when I leave, because it's a sort of situation, you know, if you've got an operation or something, it's a sort of situation that terrifies you.
Yeah.
And to have someone treating you with kindness, I find, you know, almost overwhelming. But the gratitude is palpable in those situations. Yeah.
They help you to reframe your fear, don't they?
Exactly, yeah.
So that nurses they could be on there most times, all the time. Any time I go to the hospital, they'd be on there, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we'll give them a free pass for gratitude every week.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the first one we've awarded.
It is.
Yeah. So take it as read. If you're a nurse, you're on our gratitude list every week.
Every week, yeah.
Especially as we get older and are likely to need you more.
Well, that's right. I know we clapped during COVID for nurses, but that's not really enough, is it?
Not really, no.
No.
Okay, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Have I told you about my friend, the blackbird?
No.
Oh, well, I'm sure I've had bird song on here before, but in the recent past, I've got a little blackbird friend.
Oh, okay.
He sits in a tree that I can see from the garden over yonder, and he sits in the top there, and he's always out there singing when I get up in the morning. And he's always out there in the evening singing. And I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but it made me very happy. The other day, I went out there in the evening. It was dusk. And he wasn't there on the top of the tree. So I made this little noise that I make sometimes to communicate with him. I'm sure he knows what it means, which is that sort of sound. And I kid you not, within a few seconds, he was back at the top of that tree singing with me. It was magnificent. And so I'm sure it was just coincidence, but it made me full of joy and gratitude in that moment. And I know this is something we've spoken about often, but those little things that are sort of tiny and don't require any great effort or money or anything else, sometimes they're the most wonderful moments.
No, I think you're right. A connection with anything in nature like that is just fantastic, isn't it? So what's going on in your gratitude list? Blackbirds or that
particular blackbird?
Blackbird.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to be able to tell him that I'm putting him on the gratitude list, but I'm not sure he'd be that bothered.
Or perhaps you could play the song by the Beatles.
I could do, which is one of my favourite Beatles songs. Actually.
Is it? Yeah. You can play him that.
I could play him that, couldn't I?
You could. That's what I'm saying. You could go out there with your guitar. I'm sure it's not a difficult one to.
It is a difficult one to play, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just use a recording of it instead. Then.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move on to days of the year.
Good, because my chicken's in the oven. Have I mentioned that?
What's that?
My chicken's in the oven.
It is, so we need to crack on, don't we? Yeah. I don't want your beeper on your oven to go off and you to get all spooky about it.
I haven't got a beeper on my oven. It's all right.
No, strangely enough, when I put days of the year in and put today in, Mother's Day came up. So I'm assuming it must be Mother's Day in America.
It is
today.
Yeah, it is Mother's Day in America. Yeah.
Because we had ours back in March, didn't we? March the 19th.
So I know we've got a lot of listeners in the US. If you're in the US and you're a mother, well, happy Mother's Day for last Sunday.
Yes. Yes, because you'll be hearing this on the Thursday after. So yeah, I hope you had a happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
The other one, there's two others that came out. Dance Like a Chicken Day, which goes back to Rory again, really, doesn't it?
Why would you want to dance?
I don't know.
Dance like a chicken?
I know. It's strange. Apparently there's a song came out some time ago, not in the UK, I think it was abroad somewhere, and everyone started to... Remember...
the Birdie song, surely?
There's one before that, apparently. Where people doing do you remember Kevin Nolan used to play for West Ham, and he used to score, he used to do a chicken dance.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
That to do with it. Perhaps he started Dance Like a Chicken Day.
Yeah, so there's a lot of chicken going on today, and you've got one in the oven, so we need to crack on.
A whole lot of chicken going on.
On this day of music, then.
Yep.
There's only a couple of things I wanted. In 1998, Frank Sinatra died at the age of 82. Now, although I had a bit of a soft spot for Frank, it was one of my mum and dad's, in their Venn diagram of overlapping musical tastes, Frank Sinatra was in there. And I remember they went to see him and Tommy Cooper was the warm man sort of thing.
Really? Wow, what a bill.
I know, and Tommy Cooper was like my dad's hero, and they met him in the queue outside. And for my dad, that was a better experience than actually going inside and seeing Frank Sinatra sing. But there we go. So I just thought
your dad reminded me of Tommy Cooper a little bit.
Yes, it was his height
Yeah.
And yeah, some of his sense of humour was quite close.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I never saw them in the same room together. I'm not sure they weren't one in the same.
I might be the son of Tommy, mightn't I?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened to the humour then. It didn't get passed down genetically, did it?
It's been watered down over the years. But at my way, I was just doing it re-entered the UK charts on 8 separate occasions. Isn't that incredible?
Is that the most re-entries?
I don't know. I don't know. It's got to be up there, isn't it?
I would have thought so, yeah.
And there's been other versions. That's just him singing it. There's been other versions who got it. Oh, Sid Vicious was probably the best version, as you know.
Yeah. I don't know of any others.
No. Anyway, the only other point was in 1957, Elvis.
Yeah.
He was, you know him, he was rushed to a Los Angeles hospital after swallowing a porcelain cap from one of his front teeth, which then lodged itself into one of his lungs. So he must have inhaled. So instead of swallowing it, he must have inhaled it, mustn't he?
Well, he might have been taking a big breath in to hit a high note or something.
Yeah.
And then he breathed in his tooth. Yeah, it's dangerous business. It is being a musical superstar.
It is, especially if you've got caps on your teeth.
Exactly.
Loose caps on your teeth.
I wonder how he reframed that.
I don't know. It perhaps gave him a different sound. Yeah,
or he perhaps thought it was a good way of getting out of that rehearsal.
Perhaps that's what it was.
Yeah. Or it put him in contact with some nurses, which he would have been grateful for.
There.
There's always a reframe.
There is there, and there's the circle's complete on that one.
All right.
Good. So I'll let you get to your chicken before it burns. Then.
Well, that's what I was just thinking, that because I'm struggling to think of a reframe from a burnt chicken.
At least, you can't even feed it to the birds. It'd be cannibalism, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. I don't know what I'd do with a burnt chicken. How would I reframe that?
You can't feed it to the dogs.
Well, I suppose I'd reframe it by saying, well, the reason it burnt is because I was trying to provide entertainment for all the people that listen to this podcast.
And that you've done it beautifully.
Yeah, all right. Good.
Well done you.
Thanks. See you next time.
See you later.
Laters.
Bye.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.